Hello everybody, it's Wednesday here on Themanyshadesofgay. I'm your host of fun and fabulous motherfucking Wednesday. My name is what the fuck are you doing? I love the argument that I hear from people that oppose gay marriage. You can't reproduce, therefore you should not be able to marry. Reproduction and lack of reproduction goes across sexual orientational lines. I know a few heterosexual couples who cannot reproduce because one or the other is incapable of carrying out the act of reproduction. And according to Christian text, the only way to reproduce is through marriage and sex within that marriage with your wife or husband. If you go outside of that union, you have committed a sin. And I'm pretty sure if you go to a sperm bank, you can find some Christian text that can be translated to say that even going to a sperm bank could be viewed as sinful. So this notion that homosexuals and the LGBTQ community are the only ones who cannot naturally reproduce is actually not really true, because there are even heterosexuals that cannot naturally reproduce. Just saying, it's a very simple common sense fact that not every heterosexual has the capability of reproducing an offspring. And coincidentally, homosexuality, by the way, to all you people that say it's against nature, there are a plethora of species, animals in the animal kingdom that actually engage in same-sex behavior. Male lions screwing other male lions. Male elephants butt-fucking other male elephants. That's gotta hurt, actually. Male horses butt-fucking other male horses. Have you seen a horse's dick? They're fucking huge. That shit's gotta hurt. And vice versa goes for the same way for female animals in the kingdoms and in the animal chain. So when one says homosexuality goes against nature, it clearly shows that they don't know much about nature outside of what they're taught in the Bible about nature, which really is more of a piece of fiction than actual reality. Because science has documented homosexuality occurring naturally in nature. So when one says it goes against nature, therefore you should not have the right to marry, simply bring up the fact that, you know what, scientists, zoologists have documented homosexuality occurring in nature naturally. If it occurs in nature naturally, why can't we as human beings, as animals ourselves, have the right to marry who we love? That one really, really pisses a lot of people off, but I love seeing the looks on the people's faces when I mention that. The idea also that gay people breed gay children is idiocy. That's another argument we have all heard, that if we're allowed to get married and we adopt kids, we'll turn them queer or dyke, gay and lesbian. Oh, evil. There's a flaw in that, because you do realize that the vast majority of people in this country are heterosexuals. And when gay people have children, they adopt. And that child was conceived through a heterosexual couple. Yeah, do you get where I'm going with this? I'm pretty sure you do. Yeah. The other thing is, when I hear people say, you'll impose on our church. No. Churches will still have the right to say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, but not here. It won't impede on your religious freedoms if gay people are allowed to get married. Even though your pastor or minister have scared the shit out of you and have kind of propagated you to believe such crap. The idea that marriage also is this sacred institution is somewhat laughable. When I hear heterosexuals or even these so-called family traditionalists say marriage is a sacred institution, really? it's so fucking sacred in America that we have shows dedicated to defaming the living crap out of that supposed sacred institution. Who wants to marry a small person? Who wants to marry a dwarf? Who wants to marry a fake millionaire? Who wants to marry a fake billionaire? Who wants to marry a guy who says he's a lawyer, but secretly he's a construction worker? Who wants to, the fucking Bachelor? There's a plethora of reality shows that make a mockery of this supposed sacred institution. And more importantly, if you want to protect the actual traditional means of marriage itself, then what you are saying is essentially that whites only should be allowed to marry, because the actual true form of the context of traditional marriage is when African Americans were not allowed to marry at all. Period. So is that the context of marriage in which you're trying to defend when you say traditional marriage? Because a man and a woman of varying races or whatever ethnicities is not the traditional sense of marriage. So if you're heterosexual and you're married to an African American woman, you do not have a quote unquote traditional marriage. If you're Asian and you're married to an African American man, you don't have a traditional marriage. You get what I'm saying? The traditional marriage technically only fell on white people. Fun little fact, or did we forget our history? I think a lot of Americans sadly do. See, marriage isn't a sacred institution in America. We mock it on a daily basis and we profit from the mockery. So, I understand why, but their arguments are completely flawed when one tries to say that they are trying to protect a sacred institution or species by trying to deny people their right to marry the person in which they love and care about. Now personally, I would never want to get married. That's just my opinion. But I believe that if you want to get married, you should have the right to, regardless of sexual orientation, gender, etc. And to deny civil rights and to deny civility and human rights to U.S. citizens that love each other is un-American and unconstitutional. And just shows that, contrary to popular belief, we are not all free in this country. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. See you next Wednesday. Bye. Bye-bye. No, seriously, bye. Gotta go. Run. Bye.